John Kuzmich here in Jinan, China, meeting with Ron Kearns in Maryland, about 12,000 miles apart. We have an exciting book that we're going to profile that's for band directors, entry level through veterans, and we're going to have the author here live with opportunities to chat about his book. And the book is entitled Quick Reference for Band Directors, and it's by Ron E. Kearns. And Ron, would you give us a 30-second preview before we get into the hardcore of what this book is all about?
Well, John, Quick Reference for Band Directors is a book designed to help aspiring band directors and experienced band directors build and maintain a successful band program. It's designed mainly for high school band directors, but it also has some ideas for middle school and elementary school programs, and for high school directors who have to assume the helm of middle school or elementary school programs. The book is divided into two parts. The first part is a very detailed part, with each chapter giving full explanations of the different ideas that need to be considered as a band director goes about doing their daily tasks. And then part two is the same chapters but done in an abbreviated way, so that it is actually a quick reference. So you don't have to read preceding chapters to be able to find solutions to specific problems you may be having. You can go straight to that problem area and look at the chapter that discusses it and find answers that will be suitable for you to help maintain and develop the program.
Well, that's an excellent start. And I think before we go any further, we need to show what we look like, because we are real people. And between us, we probably have, I'm guessing, 75 years of teaching experience. And that makes us either look good or bad. But since we're still here, I take that as a compliment that we can share our talents. So, Ron, I think that before we go through the individual chapters, what is your target audience?
Well, our target audience is actually students who are in the process of learning how to teach music and how to become band directors. One of the things that's misleading is the title band director, because it gives the student and the aspiring music educator the idea that all they're going to be doing is directing a band. And that is a very small part of what we do, and actually it's supposed to be the biggest part. But we also have to have certain management skills and be able to have some PR skills and some salesman skills in order to develop and build a program that's going to be long-term and it's going to be successful.
Are there any special skills that are given in the book that might not be part of the training of a music educator at the college level?
Yes, the book discusses in detail the importance of being able to maintain budgets, be able to maintain personnel, be able to develop support systems, and be able to lay out the philosophy and the mission of the program in such a way that people in the community, people in the school, and people who are actually directly involved with the program can understand exactly what it is the band director wants to do. And so those kinds of things are things that are done and have to be done very thoroughly off the podium. And then, of course, you have to have a major skill set to be successful on the podium.
Is this an overstatement? This book's for everybody who's an instrumental music teacher?
No, it's not an overstatement, because it is actually designed to be that. And it's designed also to make the instrumental music teacher know that they have an even broader scope as being a music educator as well as a specific instrumental teacher.
Well, I'm raring to go. With that introduction, need I say more? We are ready to rock. Here's the book, and here's the first chapter. So you want to be a band director. Any commentary that hasn't been stated that should be, or do we go on to the next chapter?
Well, no, this chapter is designed to give new band directors an idea of the planning for personal development and the need to have a philosophy of music education in order to be successful, and also, as I touched on earlier, the importance of having a resource network.
Well, I definitely appreciate that because it sets the stage. Now, the one thing I want to do is get to chapter 2.
Well, Chapter 2 is about building and maintaining the program. Whether you are a new or veteran band director in a building or you're new to a new school, there are certain things that you need to be aware of in order to build and maintain your program. Things like recruiting, retaining, and heaven forbid if you lose someone, reclaiming students. And so all of those things go into the importance of being able to build and maintain a program.
Well, I call these survival skills,
They are.
not just technical skills. Now, I noticed that this book has a premise that if you don't start with a handbook, you might not be as organized as you need to be.
Exactly. As I explain in the book, a handbook is a map and a blueprint for success. And without it, you have absolutely no idea where you're going. And so the handbook gives you an opportunity to have a place that you can reference so that your administration, parents and teachers and students can look in the book and see exactly what's expected. You can put calendars in there, you can put forms for medical emergencies, you can put forms and different things for instrumental rentals and usage of school instruments. Anything that will pertain to the success and the maintenance and the everyday maintenance of a band program should be included in the handbook. And this is the best place to put your philosophy of music so that people can get to know you and know what you want to do in your day-to-day operation of your program. And it can also be a place, or should also be a place, where you state very clearly and concisely the mission of your program so that anyone who wants to know exactly what you plan to achieve or what you hope to achieve can pick up your handbook and get a snapshot of what your program is and will be for 5 years.
Well, to me, this is a roadmap with a GPS. That sounds excellent to me. Now, another core going beyond the handbook is that if you don't have a systematic way of developing lesson plans, you are a boat without a rudder.
True. Over my years of teaching, I was always surprised to come across so many band directors who didn't feel that they needed to have lesson plans. And this chapter discusses the fact that every rehearsal is actually a music lesson. And if you're not teaching and imparting some kind of music knowledge on your students, they are not going to actually be able to perform and retain what you're trying to get them to do. And so every day you find yourself going back over the same kinds of things. And so developing lesson plans gives you a clear guide as to what you plan to achieve. It gives your students a clear guide of what they need to be able to achieve. And we talk about the fact that lesson plans sometimes just need to be put on the board as a goal. Today we're going to work on intonation. And then your lesson plan will describe exactly how you're going to work on intonation, how you're going to work on some of the other skills that are needed to maintain a successful band program.
Well said. Now, I don't know of any program that can survive without a successful music performance, and you've highlighted the first one. Any insight of what you're sharing with us?
Yes, the idea of a successful first performance is the real plan that you're going to have, because that first performance sets the tone of what you expect to have your students achieve. It says something about the standards that you have. It shows what your teaching expertise and level of expertise is, and just gives everybody a very complete view of things that are better that will come and things that you have achieved already in such a short period of time.
Well, you can't argue with that. Now, without a support system and good PR, it's trying to drive a car on kerosene instead of high-octane gas. How do you get support for your band program?
Well, one of the things that you want to do is have a parent group, whether you call them boosters or whether you call them band supporters or whatever. You want to have them to be able to give you certain resources and do some things that you can't do. You want to have a pool of chaperones. You want to have people who can come and help you set up the stage. You want to have people who can help transport equipment or transport students. And also you want to be able to have support from your administration. You want to be able to know that you can go to them for certain backup things and for financial things. And it also talks about developing a support system for having someone that you can go to, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a colleague who has experienced some of the things that you've experienced, and just be able to have people and places that you can go to reach out to get some help that you will know that you are not in this battle alone. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel, and the more you can improve the wheel, the better you'll be. And that's where the assistance of a support system comes in.
Well stated, that you're not alone and that you are as strong as your followers. Well said. Festival participation has always been a barometer for judging the success of a music program. Any comments to share here?
Yes, well, festivals now are called assessments, and they're tied to the teaching level and teacher proficiency of the individual teacher. And so because in your job evaluation now, your festival participation is an assessment, you want to make sure that everything that you have worked on in class is represented in the festival performance of your students. And so the preparation goes back to that planning and the lesson plans and the kinds of things that you wanted to achieve in that first successful performance. And you want to be able to build on that first successful performance and get a good festival participation and be prepared. And so we talk about the different kinds of ways of being able to prepare for the festival and the things that you need to do in order to have a successful festival performance.
Well, there's no argument there. You are stronger when you are successful than if you're using a rubber band to keep your program together.
Exactly.
Now, budgets in this time of economic uncertainty and the finances needed to develop a program and build it are another challenge. Any comments here?
Yeah, this is actually a three-prong plug here. You want to develop a budget with your parent boosters group, your parents. You want to develop a budget with the budget people in your school, in your local school. And you also want to be able to find out what kind of resources you get from the school system. And so by pulling all three of those groups together and having someone in your boosters group as well as you look at the kinds of things that you're going to need. You know, are we going to need to buy or repair uniforms? Are we going to need to buy certain instruments that are going to be needed that students generally don't purchase themselves, bass drums and tubas and items like that. And so you want to be able to have a realistic budget that not only gives you a chance to maintain, but it also gives you a way to grow by being able to go out and buy new equipment and get new things and do new things that will help you to be able to take your program to another level.
Very good about growth is a natural point of departure for the program going forward. Now, musicianship never ceases. Any secrets to share?
Well, this is actually what I call the nitty-gritty of what we do. Developing musicianship in band class is tied to the whole concept of band directors being music educators. A lot of band directors don't think about preparing notes so that their students know exactly what the song or what the composer was trying to do, and what skill set they're going to need in order to bring forth what the composer desired to have this piece performed like. And so as we talk about developing musicianship, we talk about things like developing good cross-listening, developing intonation, developing good tone production, being able to breathe, being able to watch the conductor, being able to sit up, and all the different things that go into a successful performance. And these things depend on individuals functioning well together as a group. And so you need to have a strong group of musicians in order to have a strong group.
Thank you. I don't know what to say about classroom management. It's called pass or fail.
Exactly. The problem that most first-year teachers have is with classroom management, and that is tied directly to discipline. And if you're not organized and if your students aren't kept on task and aren't kept busy, classroom management is going to be a major challenge for you, and you're going to find yourself having to deal with problems that are not music-related problems. And so the less you have to deal with discipline and problems in the class, the more you'll be able to deal with that developing of the musicianship in the band class. And so you want to make sure that you pace the class and that you do things in class that will keep everyone engaged, even if you're working with a specific section on a specific problem. You want to be able to maintain interest from the other students and keep the class managed in such a way that boredom does not lead to discipline problems.
Very good. And of course, there's never any end of improving your band's performance.
Well, chapter 9, 10, and 11 are related because if you're developing musicianship in the band class, if you have good classroom management, you're going to start improving your band's performance because you're going to once again be able to keep individuals on task, and you're going to be able to have the group start to get that group mentality and feel that everyone is responsible for carrying their own weight. And once individuals improve, then the band itself will improve, and you'll be able to bring different things together and bring things into focus so that your band's performance will be able to be improved and be maintained at a certain level that's going to be a proficient level.
Now, without a good feeder system, no band director will ever succeed.
No, and in some of the smaller districts, band directors are paired, high school band directors are paired with the elementary school, and so they get an opportunity to develop a program. And this is very important because if you wish to have in the future good musicians coming from the feeder system, coming up from elementary school to middle school to get to high school, if you are the person on the elementary level, then you have the opportunity to develop the instrumentation and to develop the attitude toward music that you want that's going to be reflected once the students get older and get into high school. So you want to be able to know how to schedule, how to put things together in classes, whether or not you want to use light instruments in classes or whether you want to make it an actual band class. And so Chapter 12 talks about the different things that you have to do in order to have a successful elementary program and what kinds of things to do so that you don't have to worry about scheduling conflicts and so that you can get students out of class, because most elementary programs have what we call pull-out classes where you're going to go and pull students out of other classes into your band class. And so you want to make sure that you are very much aware of the problems that come with that. And in most cases, the teacher is not in the school every day, in the elementary school every day. And so if you're not in the elementary school every day, then you want to make sure that you have developed the program in such a way that you can schedule students and get the most out of the time that you have with them.
Now, a band program consists of different ensembles, and you've hit the core here in Chapter 13 with the primary focus. Any words of wisdom?
Yeah, one of the things I talk about in Chapter 13 is how to structure your concert band, symphonic band, and wind ensemble. And one of the things that's major for this is being able to have concert band as your lowest level band, and then have those students to be able to aspire to symphonic band to play more challenging and more difficult music. And then for more successful band programs, to have an elite group or a group that's the model group, the wind ensemble, for the concert band and symphonic band students to aspire to, gives you something to build on. And so that if you have a student that starts off a freshman in the concert band, then he or she can hope to be in wind ensemble by their junior or senior year. And so that helps you with the retention of students, and it also helps you to have some focus so the students know that the program is not stagnant, that they will have some place to go. They're not going to just be locked in with students who may not be of the same performance level that they are. And so everyone can feel comfortable. The students that are borderline can want to stay in because they have music that they can play that's challenging to them. And the students that are at the extreme end will have wind ensemble and be able to play the most challenging music that you have to offer.
Now, you and I know there's always power in numbers, but you develop your ensemble successfully faster if you have successful small ensembles. Any words of note about this?
Yes, well, one of the things that I discuss here is how different things that are going to be talked about and used in the larger group can be done by using small ensembles, developing good intonation, developing good tone production, developing good blends, being able to develop the skills of cross-listening, being able to get all kinds of things done that will help the larger group, but being able to focus on them in a smaller group. And smaller ensembles also give you an opportunity to keep those more advanced students in your band program challenged so that they're not bored by the literature that the whole band is doing, and they can start to use those skills. And one of the things that I discovered over my years of teaching was the better my small ensembles, the better my larger ensemble got, because the skills that those students learned in the smaller ensemble came back as skills that they used in the larger ensemble, and it was a major thing for me and for them.
Good point. Well, we know that if you expand your program beyond the focus of the symphonic, wind, and concert bands, your band really not only grows but becomes multi-dimensional. Any thoughts about this?
Yes. The idea that every student is going to be attracted to any one style group, concert band or whatever you want to call it, is an idea that is not going to cause your program to grow, and it's not going to appeal to the larger number of students from the school population that you're drawing from. So developing a good marching band, developing a good jazz band, and having the good symphonic band, concert band, and wind ensemble in the school will be very important. And so you want to be able to reach out and get students engaged by bringing them into groups like the marching band and the jazz ensemble. And so we talk about that in chapter 15, as well as using some of the other ensembles like brass ensembles and woodwind ensembles and flute choirs and those kinds of things.
Well, we all know in the public's eye, a good marching band is probably your best single PR tool in the community.
Yes, it is. We talk about the fact that marching band is the first group that actually represents the band program of your school, and also is seen by and appeals to the largest number of people that you're going to come to. During a football game or during a parade, the marching band is seen by many, many more people than will actually ever come to an inside concert. And so, fairly or unfairly, they will judge your program based on your marching band. And so with that knowledge, you want to make sure that those kinds of things that you're trying to get to represent you with your concert band, your wind ensemble, your symphonic band, are those things that are demonstrated by your marching band, the kind of discipline, the kind of musical excellence and musical performance, the kind of showmanship, and the kinds of things that have to go into marching band. And I talk about the two different kinds of marching bands that are basically the most used now, and that's the show band, which used to be known as the high step band, and corps style. And there are variations of each of those, and they're discussed in the book without any kind of value judgment as to which style you should choose. And in fact, I talk about the fact that you need to go into the community and find out which style will appeal to the students, appeal to your audience, because if you are a show style director and you go into a school where corps style is best for the school, then you should not try to go in and force high step or show on those students, and vice versa. If you are a corps style director and you go into a school where the students would be more interested in seeing high step and show style, then you need to be able to know exactly what needs to go into developing that kind of band. And so we talk about all of those things in chapter 16, and chapter 16 is one of the longer chapters in the book.
Well, I'm prejudiced. Jazz is the essence of creativity with improvisation. Any words of thought here?
Well, yes. You know, one of the things that we talk about in developing musicians is being able to get them engaged to the point where they feel like they're actually creating something. And jazz with improvisation is spontaneous composition. And if you can challenge a student and give a student an opportunity to see that he or she can develop personally and contribute to the group by being able to do what we say in jazz, tell a story, then they will do extremely well as time goes on. One of the things that we discussed here is just the basics of how to set up a jazz ensemble, the function of each section in a jazz ensemble, the importance of improvisation, the importance of being able to bring in guests and guest artists to demonstrate for your band, and then the importance of being able to use different things like the different play-along recordings where students can actually learn songs and practice improvisation, or learn songs and start to play in different jazz styles. Because one of the things that we talk about in developing jazz players is the importance of learning the jazz language. And so we want to know the differences between the articulations that are found in jazz performances and the articulations that are found in more classically based performances. And so all those things are discussed here. And chapter 17 is probably the longest chapter in the book.
Well, I'm also prejudiced to technology and multimedia because that's what the 21st century is all about.
Exactly. One of the things about writing anything about using technology is the fact that as soon as you write it, it's probably obsolete. And so I tried to be as flexible in this chapter and talk about different things. And part of what we talk about is being able to use things like iPads and smartphones to be able to take care of almost everything that you need to take care of and maintain everything that you will need to maintain by way of management and by way of actual music teaching tools, by having them at hand or in your pocket. And also talk about how to do things like using metronomes and PowerPoint programs to teach specific parts of music that you're working on in class, how to use the new technology for tuning so the students will be able to tune and be able to follow along certain sections as they're playing. And once again, I talk about how to use technology for good classroom management, because if you are using a PowerPoint presentation to teach a certain section how to count certain rhythms or how to do certain things, then others in the class can learn those same rhythms and learn those same things and be just as engaged because they're watching it through technology. Because the book is published by the National Association for Music Educators, there is a tie-in with the different publications that NAFME puts out that they have a complete section of technology in every section of their magazines, whether it's the Music Educators Journal or whether it's Teaching Music. You can go through and you can see the newest technology, and it adds on to what I have in Chapter 18. Chapter 18 also gives you links and gives you websites where you can go to access technology and multimedia things, so that you'll be able to find products and things that you can buy and that you can use every day in class, and things that you can just go to, like smart music and how to use things like smart music to assess your students' performance achievement and to administer tests and different things, and have students be able to do those kinds of things at home as well as in practice rooms at school.
Everybody's looking for quick fixes. What are you referring to?
Well, one of the things that happened to me and probably happened to you and almost every band director at some point in time is you're getting ready to go on stage for a festival or for a concert, and a student comes to you with a pad in one hand and their instrument in the other hand, and they look panicky, and they expect you to be able to do something so that they'll be able to play. And usually, with Murphy's Law, it's someone that you actually need that has a solo or has a major part. And so you need to be able to know what to do. What can I use to glue this pad back in? How can I seat it properly so that the student will be able to play? What kind of thing can I do if the student has left their ligature for their clarinet or for their saxophone in the case, and the cases on the bus? And what kinds of things can I do if a spring pops? What can I do if the string for a French horn has popped? How can I do these things quickly, and how can I fix them so that the instrument and the student will be able to function for this performance? And I talk about the importance of being able to do it for an emergency purpose only, and be able to get the instrument to a certified repair person to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of on the long term.
Well, as much as we're music teachers, there's more to this job than just teaching music.
You know, almost everybody at some point gets bus duty, gets cafeteria duty, gets some kind of non-teaching, non-music teaching responsibility in the school, whether it's hall monitoring or just doing different things to help students. We'll talk about the non-music responsibilities, and sometimes these things are very helpful to you, because some of the ways that you are involved non-musically in the school give you access to students that you might not see. And I used to use these kinds of things as a recruiting tool. So we talk about the importance of going to staff meetings to be able to discuss things. So if the issue of block scheduling comes up, and you worry about how it's going to be able to be managed and not kill your program, when the faculty is discussing these kinds of things, you're there to talk about it and to put forth what's best for you and your program. And so there are a lot of non-music things that you need to be aware of before you go into the school, so that if you need to develop a skill set of being able to work with people and to influence people, you can start thinking in those terms before the first day of school.
Any comments about the general management of a music program that have not been covered yet?
I think pretty much everything has been covered so far, because this is just basic strategies and specifics for general management of the program. We talk about the different kinds of things that are needed and the different kinds of things that you have to do so that you're not taken by surprise by anything that happens to come up once you start planning trips, or once you're actually on a trip, or once you go to a festival, or you're planning to go to the festival, those kinds of things.
And obviously forms have a purpose: save time, get better organization. Anything else?
Yeah, well, these forms are designed for the directors that might not know how to develop an instrument usage form, or a medical form, or a permission slip or something. There are a lot of school districts that have these forms, and a lot of schools that have these forms. But then, as I discovered while doing the book, there are a lot of school systems that the band director or individual teachers are expected to come up with their forms. And so the forms in this book can be copied, can be customized, can be used exactly as they are, can be used to simply give you suggestions on the kinds of things you want to include on any forms that you want to use for your program. Once again, everything that is going to come up and going to be needed to maintain and develop your program will come on some kind of form at some point in time. And so this is to prepare you and keep you from panicking when you need to develop these kinds of forms.
Now, before we go to the last part of this interview, I wanted to bring us up again, because you've spent over 30 years technically in developing this book, because every year you teach, you add things to your repertory. Without going into any great detail, How have you evolved as a music educator from your first year to where you are now that has had a result in being used in this book?
Well, there's several things. The whole idea of trial and error and going through from my first day to my last day, scratching those things off that were things that didn't work, refining those things that did work. And one of the things that really helped me develop as a band director came once I became a band parent, when I started going to my daughter's programs and watching my colleagues working with bands and seeing things that need to be done, especially things that need to be done by way of communication with parents and by communication with students and making sure students got things over. So my skills as a band director, as I did in an article for the New Jersey Music Educators a couple of years ago, really developed as a parent looking at what we do as professionals and looking at what we need to do by way of communication, by way of maintaining a support system, by way of making sure our students know exactly what's expected of them and what the standards we have are, and those kinds of things. And so every year I honed a skill a little more, and fortunately we got more errors out than the successful trials. And so the book was put together to give new and young teachers an opportunity to have something to go to cut out some of the trial and error things that go on, so that they don't have as many errors that they have to overcome.
Excellent. I think it gives credibility to the book when they understand that the author has put this together over a period of time based on successful resolution of conflicts. So you are indeed a survivor. Now let's go to the last part of our interview, which will probably go quicker, and I think each slide will have its own reference points. And once again, Ron, I'll be looking forward to your comments about each page in kind of a summary manner. So here we go. And now we've kind of covered this, but anything that needs to be said before we go on?
Yes, the importance of developing a personal philosophy of music education has to be really stressed, because, as I said before, it is definitely a roadmap, and you need to know why you are doing what you're doing in order to do it and do it effectively. And if you don't know why you got into music education and what you expect to impart on students as a music educator, then you're not going to be successful. And so you need to take time and really evaluate and decide just why you got into this. You know, why did I want to be a band director? Why do I want to be a music educator? And then make it a very clear statement of what you believe.
Well, you are what you believe.
Yes.
Now, anything here on the components of a personal philosophy?
Yes, you want to make sure that you say exactly why it is you think music education is important, why it was important to you, how it affected you, how it shaped you as an individual.
And of course, inherent is the value of where you place music education.
Exactly, exactly. Is it just entertainment? Is it just a filler? Or is it something that is actually a basic learning tool and something that's basic to the development of the whole person?
And of course, you just hit on it. It has a positive attribute to one's life.
Exactly.
And we would like that to be emulated by our students.
Exactly. You know, how do you want to impart this knowledge on your students? What do you want them to take from every lesson that they get from you, every rehearsal you have?
And a successful program does it faster and better than one that is not successful.
Yes.
Well, your mission statement has been well presented in the book, Is there anything more besides the statement speaks for itself?
Yeah, the statement pretty much speaks into itself because you want everybody who's part of the program, and I refer to them as stakeholders, to buy into your program and your idea, because you have to realize they're buying into you. They're trusting you, especially as a new teacher, especially the first day. They are expecting something from you. And so I talk about the importance of sitting down with the students and developing a mission statement so that they can buy into it, and as they go through different parts of it, they can feel that they're successful, and you can also reflect on it and say, you know, are we doing what we said we were going to do?
Am I correct? On your wall in your band room, you very clearly have the mission statements there, so whenever
Yes.
a rehearsal doesn't quite go the way you want, you've got reinforcement right behind you.
Exactly. It should be put on your wall in your room. It should be in your handbook. It should be on your website. It should be anywhere anybody who looks into your program can look and see very clearly and concisely what it is you and your program want to achieve.
And you've got a sample one here. Any
Yeah, very
clarification?
short. No, it's very short. You know, it is the mission of the Kearns High School Band to promote, enhance, and maximize music performance levels of all students of the Kearns High School Band program. And that pretty much says exactly what you want to do. You want to make sure that every child has the opportunity to reach their optimum, and you want to make sure that every part of the program has a chance to be successful.
Every child. I love it. Great quote. Well, you can't go without resources and networking. Anything here we need to focus in on?
No, this is what we talked about earlier about the creation of the resource network, and it's pretty much self-explanatory.
And then on the next slide, you've got some strategies for creating it. Anything here we need to know?
Well, yeah, this just gives a blueprint of exactly what you want to do in case you don't know what kinds of things you should be considering for creating a resource network.
Well, you've hit on one right there. Any organizations that stand out?
Well, yeah, now there's a new organization, the Jazz Educators Network for jazz instructors. Of course, NAFME, the National Association for Music Educators, and the satellite state groups that go. Each state and each local district has an affiliate to NAFME. And NAFME is the largest association of music educators in the world. And so if you can't find some help from a group like that, where you can go to different forums and go to different ways of getting questions answered, then you're going to have major problems. And so you want to make sure that you make yourself available to those kinds of things. Go to the conventions, go to the in-service workshops that they have, go to their website and find answers to questions that may be questions that you need to access.
Need I say more? Network with everybody
Exactly.
available.
You know, a lot of times people are so hung up with the idea that they're competing with other people that they forget that they can ask questions. There are things that other band directors have experienced that you can experience, and sometimes it's very easy to feel like you're the only one that's going through certain things. But then when you talk to other people, especially more experienced directors, you find out that what you're going through is something that almost every other band director at some point in time went through. And so the sharing of that information and sharing of that knowledge is very important.
And let's see what we've got here. First one is technology, social, and professional networking. Well, that's obvious.
One of the largest groups on Facebook is a group of band directors, and the band directors group at this time has over 10,500 members. And so there's a forum there, and people ask questions, and they have different answers, and they're from different parts of the country. And so, whatever part of the country you're from, you can access some information just from those kinds of interactions, and it's fun. You know, you get a chance to share jokes, and you get a chance to share experiences as well as ask questions.
In service, state, local, region, national, it's all there.
All of the above.
And you just mentioned the forums where you can ask a question and get an answer.
Exactly. Most people have problems because they're afraid to ask questions, because they think that asking a question shows some kind of weakness, and because of that they flounder instead of getting a simple answer to a question that could be easily answered and taken care of.
And here's your summary for the national organization.
Exactly, I've already touched on that, and it says everything that I've said. You know, reach out, go to groups like NAFME and others, and ask for help.
And there's a particular link that can be gotten. Because my screen doesn't show the colors very well, could you give the URL orally so that they can do it easier?
Well, the basic the basic is www.nafme.org, and from there it will take you to the different places and specific places. And this particular one that I have here is for music education, and it shows how to organize a parent boosters group and some of the things that you have to do in order to stay legal with things that you do by way of fundraising and other things. And so it's a very good resource.
And here's a sample of your chapter 22. You've got forms, and you've got a couple of forms. I think their content can be studied. You can simply stop the video or pause it, and I don't think we need to say much. Is that probably the simplest way to present these forms?
Yes.
Medical forms. Inventory. Now, I would be remiss, is there anything in your career, not that you want to brag, but if I don't give you a chance to show off, Ron, people will think that you need this book for your reputation, and vice versa. Your career speaks for itself. I see that you've been selected for a Grammy Signature School twice, and a partner school, SBO magazine, which is School Band and Orchestra magazine. You've been selected as one of the top band directors, well, the one for your state in 2005, and Downbeat has recognized you. I'm assuming that you're modest and you're embarrassed that I'm talking about you, but I think, you know, your book is representation of all those good words that you've just stated on each chapter, and I've drilled you pretty good. And you haven't flinched, you haven't hesitated. You were reciting almost as if it was ingrained in your head. And of course, you wrote the book, so you don't need a photographic memory. It's part of you, and I think it speaks of you highly. And I just want to compliment you on sharing the book and allowing banddirector.com to have this in-depth interview. We're already at the 50-minute mark, and we're not quite done, so I think it gives a lot of depth to someone who wants to consider buying your book. And I'm assuming your book is good for not only entry-level music teachers and people in the middle of their career, but journeymen who already know everything.
Exactly. I try to talk about enough things that will cause those people who are at that point where they're almost ready to burn out, because we all go through that point, and they're just looking for something that will trigger something new in them and give them a new idea. And so I try to talk about things in such a way that people know that there are different ways of doing things, and if you keep trying to do the same thing the same way, you're going to most of the time get the same results. And unless those results are superior results, you're not going to want to keep repeating. And even if they are superior results, you want to remember that every time you get a new student coming in, you have a new slate, and you're not going to be able to teach the students this year the same way you taught the students 10 years ago. And so you need to be aware of that. And you need to be aware of the fact that sometimes you need to upgrade your skill set.
Well stated, and I'm just real tickled about it. Before we finish with the last slide, which is this, I think we're both going to face the audience and wave our salute, whatever that might be, so that they know that once again, we're real people. So as we share the comments that are written, I'm assuming this is on the back cover. Where would we find this reference point?
Well, actually, this is the official flyer from the National Association for Music Education and Roman and Littlefield Education, letting people know that they can get the book. And anyone who is a NAFME member gets a discount on the book. I think it's a 20% discount on the book.
Well, I'm glad we didn't forget that. 20% is 20%. Very good. I'm glad. And I think they can catch this probably in advertisements and things that are through the organization. But I think for right now, we can look at each other 12,000 miles away, 13 hours that separate us. You got up early. I haven't finished dinner yet, but I know we've had a very satisfying meal of music education. So Ron, let's give our salute, whatever that might be, to the audience. And all I can say, anchors away, let the music begin. And thank you, audience, for supporting this entire interview.